I love how fast Periscope is, and it's so fast that I didn't get my window. Don't mind the plastic that's been on my office window for a few years that I can't get off. But I just want to show you the 6 to 8 foot drifts in my backyard before we chat. I'm showing you guys what my pretty backyard looks like. So now that that's out of the way, I have a ton of really great stuff for you today. I really, really do. Hey, thanks for joining. So you're going to want to get a notebook because I'm going to cover a ton of stuff on how to prioritize, not feel bad about the things that you aren't getting done in your life, actually save money at the very end. It's going to kind of like come full circle actually, because when you have focus, you're not kind of like chasing all these other things, okay? So I'm going to give you a little backstory on kind of how this came up today. My husband inadvertently woke me up at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a crappy day. So I started looking through. I knew I needed to get up, work out, do this personal development stuff. Hey, thanks for joining. Do this personal development stuff. And I looked through a marriage book, and I looked through my Bible study stuff, and I looked through a few different things. Didn't really find much, okay? And then I got going on a good podcast, and I assembled all these things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Thanks for joining. That I want to talk to you guys about goals and how not to set flimsy, crappy goals that you're just going to forget about. Ones that like stick because they have an emotional attachment and different things, okay? So I am going to jump right into it. So first, we want to figure out what your focus is, okay? Because time management is BS. All of it is like priority management. I think I talked about that in the last scope. Not everything can be a priority at all. Like you'll just feel harried and pulled in 50 different directions. So you don't feel bad if you can't do everything. And let's talk about how you prioritize, okay? But before we do that, I'm going to give you like 10 areas to rate your own life in, and then you're going to rate them from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, and then you'll kind of decide where you want to go from there. Hey, thanks for joining. So ask yourself before beginning, what does my long-term vision look like? Even if you don't know, but you can ask your things like, what do I think would make me feel happy? What do I think is making me kind of unhappy? Things like that, okay? So you can go ahead and ask those questions, kind of give yourself like maybe some like top line like thoughts, and then you can go into this, or you can skip that first part. So now rate these key areas in life from 1 to 10. So the first one would be physical health. Second one would be mental well-being. Third one would be environment. Fourth one would be hobbies, joy, and restoration. Fifth one would be romance. Sixth one would be family and friends. Seventh one would be finances. Eighth one would be purpose or career. Ninth one would be spirituality. And 10 would be personal development. Okay? Personal development is like beauty from the inside out. Whatever motivates you and inspires you and all that kind of stuff. Okay? So go ahead and take those 10 things and then rate yourself 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And after you've done that, you might give yourself a little bit of space and time to do that, and a little bit of just thought time, okay? Little thought time to do that. Don't ask anyone else their opinion for sure. But once you've scored yourself on those things, then you can kind of look at that and say, if you scored kind of low in a certain 1 or 2 areas, maybe you want those to be your priorities for the next 90 or so days. So the problem with planning for a whole year out is that it's too long term. We get bored with that, okay? It's very hard for us to imagine what our lives might look like in 12 months. So going with a shorter term for this plan is much better. You can do a month. I don't want to redo this 12 times, so I go with 3 months or 90 days, and it seems to work really nice. So far anyway. Don't always get it redone, but it's a good like rule of thumb. So let's say, I always like to use the physical health one as an example, and I'll probably use a different one later as an example, but as I go through this, I'll try to use physical health will be my thing, because if this is your first time joining me, my name is Krista Bigler, and I am a DIY dietitian. I like to help people connect to the proper tools to give themselves ultimate health and happiness, okay? So this is part of that, and this is a long one, but it's going to be good. So, once you have rated those areas, you have a couple options on where to go next. If this is your first time, I would do this one. I would go with write down, if you decide physical health is the area you want to focus on, for the next 3 months, I'd write down everything you can think of. Just get it out of your brain. Doesn't mean that you have to do these things. This is just to get it off your mind. I'd brain dump all that down that you can think of, okay? Because you got to get that out of your mind. if you feel like you can do this second step, you could do this. You could pick 2 or 3 guiding areas that seem to build on each other, and then kind of write all the projects down underneath that. Because the goal gets a project list. A goal isn't, goals shouldn't, like, part of the issue with people writing goals is like, it's often like a list of stuff. And it's often like not necessarily related. And so it doesn't like string together and like progressively build on one another. So that's part of the issue. And secondly, it doesn't like have emotion. There's not really an attachment, okay? Because you didn't come up with like, you didn't assess your life first to see what would like better it. And so it doesn't really have an attachment. Like it's, they're just kind of like a list. Like it's a to-do list. And you don't want, goals aren't a to-do list. They're not a project list per se. They're like the big thing. And then the projects and things that like get you to that are the little pieces, okay? Because we got to break everything down into smaller pieces. Okay? So let's say, for example, a goal for physical health might be, I want to feel confident in my own skin, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so maybe some of the ideas I would brain dump would be, look for accountability partner, pick a program, create a backup plan in case I don't feel like doing that one, or it doesn't work for me, research the best eating plans, ask for help if I need it, create small goals each week, try 1 to 2 new recipes per week, to try 1 to 2 new foods per week, find 2 people that inspire me and follow them. You don't want to get like too many because it would be all over the place, right? Reflect weekly or bi-weekly, set an alarm on my phone to do X, Y, and Z, things like that. Okay, those are just some things I thought of real quick as I was preparing for this. So those would be some ideas. If you feel like you can fit those like into core headings, you can do that. I have my own personal example for like work-related stuff. I'll just give it to you now, right? Why not? So this one would be like for career. So one of my goals was, so overall, my overarching thing was that with my purpose in career, I wanted to get more like well set up for online business to make it more easy, okay? Give me more focus, okay? For lack of a better way to say it. I mean, I say it a little bit different way. So one of my overarching things was that I wanted to create a system for seeing an X number of food sensitivity clients per month, okay? So when I did that, I like listed out a ton of things I thought that could help me get there, okay? Doesn't mean I'm gonna do every single one of these, but it was like my brain dump of like, what is everything I can think of that could help me get there? Like I could do these webinars, I could do this, I could find these people over here, whatever. My next one was, create more systems to like, for my health coaching to make it easier for clients, etc. And then I like wrote down all those things. Okay, so that was the idea of coming up with like 3 main core topics. Otherwise, you can just brain dump it all together. Okay, all those work. And I'm gonna go with kind of the top level for this. But if you want to go through it one-on-one for your specific situation, then let's talk one-on-one. We can do that too because I kind of love doing this now. So when you start, you might only handle 1 or 2 priority areas. Because they're priorities. Like not everything can be a priority, okay? But as later on, as you kind of build on those, you might be able to handle a little bit more because your efficiency and effectiveness might improve, okay? Or what happens is like maybe this 3 months you focus on physical health, but after you master that, you're gonna continue on that path, and then next you'll add whatever. Because like physical health will now be like easy for you because you focused on it so much that you got good at it and it became easy, okay? So then you'll move on. So after you've like rated these, you're gonna ask some harder questions. What do I need to do more of maybe? What do I need to do less of? What do I need to stop altogether? What's my checkpoint going to be? Things like that. One of my things that was stop altogether last year when I started this for the very first time, because here's the thing, like you're going to create these new goals and projects and things, but you're going to say, where am I going to find this time? Well, these are the questions to help you find that, because we all have this wasted time in our day. We don't have more time. We don't find more time, we make it. Okay. So last year I had decided like I need to get out of this mindless TV watching. I need to stop spending so much time online shopping, okay? I'll speak more to that at the end. So those are like some tough questions you can answer yourself. And then you're gonna wanna come up with like a domino goal, one that's going to like group all these together. Okay. So if you've set so once you figure out your priorities, your 1 to 2 priority areas, you kind of brain dump everything you think that needs to be done underneath that. And maybe you come up with like, maybe your goal is to just improve your physical health. Maybe your goal is to just improve your romance, whatever. And then the items go under that. That can be that too. But then you need to come up with something that's going to like push those other things forward. So sometimes that relates to time, depending on what your overarching goals are. So maybe a domino type goal would be, I have to hire a babysitter in 2 increments of like 4 hours a week, because I know I'm going to need this amount of time to get that done. Or I just need to, if that's not an option, maybe I just need to wake up earlier. Maybe I need to ask for help from so-and-so. You know, you have to decide that and like let it come within you, basically, what your like domino goal would be. That's going to push the other ones forward. Okay. Last piece of this is about habit creation. Okay. I've talked about habit creation before and how it has to have like an immediate gratification, all that type of thing. But I'm going to talk about it from a little bit different perspective this year. I'm reading a book right now called The 12-Week Year. It's very good. This morning I read a good piece. It said, new actions are almost always uncomfortable. That's one of the things that makes change so difficult. Very much so, right? So you have to be willing to get a little uncomfortable sometimes if you really want to like strive for better success in different areas, okay? So what can you do to create an environment for success in addition, right? So for example, last couple days after Christmas, I was having a hard time getting back into the swing of things. Just wasn't getting that much done, partly because of a lack of planning, but also it was like environmental. I like Christmas blew up in my office and I realized I had to just stop and clean it up. So that was like making my environment more conducive for success. If let's say physical health was my priority and I don't have a space to do exercise, like I haven't created that yet, or I don't know where that will be. If I haven't even thought about that, like it's going to be pretty hard to get it done. You know, if I didn't create this environment or structure for success, it's going to be pretty easy to fail right out the gate. Okay. If I don't find that time and find that accountability, it might not happen. Okay. Another good thing from the 12-week year I was reading, that basically when people had accountability people in their life, like had a method of accountability, it increased their success by 8 times. Really, really. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like people had I can't remember the exact numbers. I think people had like a 20% chance of success without accountability and an 80% chance with it. I guess those numbers don't make sense, but I knew it was 8 times. Whatever. Okay, so you got to have the structure and environment set up, because willpower, you can't rely on willpower. Willpower is fleeting, okay? It comes and it goes. Sometimes we have it and sometimes we don't. That's why, you know, we do accountability groups together monthly, and those are awesome. And that's really helpful. But that's why, because if you don't have that, like, it's very easy to fall off the horse and fall off the wagon. Okay. All right, let's talk the habits, okay? But my point was, you can't set a goal without first assessing your life, which is why we did the focus, or the priority assessment first, okay? And then kind of know, like, how am I going to get it done, and is it calendared? Because how often have you said, when I get some extra time, I'll do that, right? When I get some extra time, I'll do that. Yeah, that doesn't really work very well, right? All right, so I came up with an acronym for some key things that help you create habits. Fat Cat's Rule, FCR. I thought it was funny. It's helping me this morning. So when you create a habit, you have to have some kind of emotional attachment to it, okay? You could try asking yourself aloud about that habit, like, how am I going to feel if I do this thing? You know, what can you do to make it more emotional, so that way you can, like, it can be more meaningful to you? Like, what could I be so grateful for that it brings me to tears? You know, things like that. Yeah, if you're not emotionally attached, you won't even revisit it. Next, you need to have some kind of checkpoint for yourself. Self-check, progress point, okay? If you don't have a plan for how you're going to measure your progress, and that's kind of boring, I know, but if you don't have a kind of a plan for measuring your progress, how do you know that you're progressing? You know, and that can be as simple as, like, before you start, you can be like, you know, you can do a little, like, I have a self-check questionnaire in my energy workbook you can download. And it talks about, like, How did I feel before I started this? How did I feel, you know, what was my sleep like? What was my eating habits like on a scale of 1 to 10? What was my digestion like? You can ask yourself those questions, and then on a bi-weekly basis, you can re-ask yourself. You can re-rate yourself, and that's going to give you like a progress point or a checkpoint. Okay, so that's one idea. Lastly, so fat cats, feelings, and then checkpoint, and then rule, that's reflection. And that's something you should do on a pretty regular basis. And I would suggest weekly, like on a Sunday morning, maybe like, you know, after church or something, you'd be like, all right, so how was my week? What could have been better? What worked well? What could have, you know, how could I have changed some things? You have to evaluate your habits, because like as someone who's done the physical health one for the past year, this one's huge. If you don't stop and reflect on like why you're not getting something done, it's pretty hard to make progress on that. Okay. So those are like these factors in improving and creating better habits. Okay. All right. Well, I said I would come full circle and talk a little bit about like money savings. And, it's not just that I had to quit online shopping. It's because, I'm speaking to women, because women are the majority of buyers. Women are responsible for like 80 to 85% of purchases in a household on average. And so what happens for women is we like retail therapy. And so sometimes we shop just to make ourselves feel better. It's a problem. And so when you have this focus, like when you decide on your priority areas and you have some focus on what you want your next 3 months to look like, you can tell yourself that you don't need to buy things that don't align with your goals and your outcomes for your life. Okay? So I'm going to let you stew on that a little bit, but my point is, if it doesn't benefit you, if it doesn't like you know, fall in line with those, then you don't need to buy it, right? That's an idea. And then I'll tell you, when I figured out what I had to eliminate in life, when I first started doing this to find more time, was I had to like spend less time like mulling over reviews and things. Like now when I decide I need something because I need it to be, it's a means to my end, like I need this to accomplish this goal, I just get in, I look, I get out, I get it done, I get out. I used to read like 30 reviews, you know, like Amazon junkies, right? And now I scan like 5, and if I'm cool with that, I get it. And if I hate it, I can return it. Like I don't need to sit here and stew over it forever, right? It's just not, it's not worth it. Not worth the waste of your time. Okay, so hope that was helpful. We chatted about finding focus. We talked about 10 areas that you can find focus. Pick a couple focus areas for your life. We talked about not planning for the whole year, and about creating new habits. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope to be back later to be talking a little bit about some sugar things. I have a sugar reset coming up next week. You can go to foodfixeseverything.com and sign up for it. It'll just be delivered to your email, or you can join the Facebook group too if you want. But a lot of us need a kickstart on the new year, right? So Food Fixes Everything. And if you need to go over your goals one-on-one, you can go to kristabigler.com and book a session, and we'll go over this. Cool. Thanks for joining me in the replay. Thank you. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.